Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and I will make scones while talking to you guys. It's just going to be kind of casual. I'm not a baker in any way. I don't really like to bake. I do like to cook. I just recently really feel like I have been missing the UK. So I thought this will be a good time to like catch up while making scones, you know, because it's like kind of like UK food. So today the recipe, I'm actually using this one from a website called Chisel and Fork. It's chocolate chip scones, so it is unconventional. And what my friends told me after I made it for them the last time is that it looks like muffins. But it's something that I really enjoy. So the whole recipe and the ingredients are going to be in the description. So I will not be like going through everything. So it has been about 1 year. No, it has been about 2 years since I came back to Singapore after staying in the UK for about 1.5 years. And actually at the time, right, I was pretty unwilling to go to UK just because when I first went there, I actually went there with my then boyfriend, now husband, for masters. And when we were planning to go to UK, COVID just started. Obviously, like in the middle of COVID, and then there were quite a lot of reports of racism in the UK, like a Singaporean getting punched in the eye, and then like, you know, people were just like getting attacked in the Western world. So actually, I've never actually been to Europe before that, and so I was a little bit afraid. When I was thinking of going, I was kind of scared because I thought like, oh shit, what if I go there and then, you know, like nobody wants to be my friend? And I don't know why, this is something that I'm pretty worried about. Again, I've never been to Europe, so never been to UK in that matter, so I don't know how the situation is really like on the ground. But I do have friends there, and then they were like, yeah, you know what, even though there is racism, but it's like how do you say, I don't know if the correct word is overplayed up. It's like played up in the media, but it's not as rampant as I would have imagined. And true enough, when I went to UK, really fell in love with the UK. I actually didn't want to come back. During my husband's graduation, I remember after his graduation, I was really upset because that's when our visas were ending. And I was like crying because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know whether, I don't think I want to go back to Singapore. I just want to stay here. It's so much fun. It's so different. Life is so exciting for us in the UK. I think this is for like most international students, when you are just like, you know, you just pack up your bags and then you move to a brand new country. And you're like, oh my gosh, life here is so exciting, so different. You know, you're so far away from your family. You can do whatever you want, and you're always constantly surrounded by friends. Your friends become your family, and I think it's like a different phase in life. So in UK, right, when we live in London, a lot of people were there without their parents, and I think it's a different culture as well, where, you know, people tend to move out. For us, we stay with our parents, sometimes even after we get married. So like me, I haven't like moved out, but that's because the houses, we haven't bought our house. We are planning to buy our house. But I think in UK, even when you have reached like university, it's like normal for you to move out of your parents' house. And it was also my first time in UK, like, you know, doing adult stuff, like renting a house, I didn't really pay the bills, but like settling the bills and cooking. And then it was just the both of us. I think moving to UK, the biggest culture shock for me, one is how much drinking is involved in the social life of the British people. Because when we went there, we started attending church as well. And even in church, they would go to like the pub to socialize, and like socialize over a beer and like discuss about like church over like a pint. And I thought that was something like pretty strange, because that's not something that we do here. I don't think it's like really encouraged. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that drinking is not allowed, but I thought that was like, oh, it's like an official, you know, like after church, then they will go up the pulpit and then be like, oh, if you want to continue like discussing about the sermon, or you want to just like make friends, we have booked like tables in the pub nearby, and then like to go to the pub. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. And a lot of students after class, like my classmates would always gather at the nearby pubs to socialize and drink, like almost after every class. And I think that was something that I was really not used to, because I'm not somebody who drinks in general. I don't really like to drink. I don't like the taste. And also I got a very bad Asian flush, so it doesn't do me any good to drink. Another thing that I was not also very used to is how friendly the people there are. And you know, all this time I've always heard people say like, oh, Singaporeans are very unfriendly, like very cold. That's what a lot of foreigners think about Singapore. And I always wondered like why they say that, because I feel like Singapore is not especially unfriendly compared to some of the countries that are around this region. We kind of act the same way, which is like we like to mind our own business. If there's no reason, like we don't generally like to talk. But after going to UK, I'm like, wow, people in the shops really asking you, like when they take your order, and then they really ask you like, oh, how was your day? How are you? And I was like, oh my God, they're asking me a genuine question. They're not just asking it to be like, oh, how are you? Okay, next, you know, like they really like want to have a conversation. And like, I won't say all, but like a lot of people, or like if people see you need help, then they will just come out and help you and like talk to you, even if it's like small things, you know. And I think that really kind of surprised me, because that's not something that we like to do here. We don't really like to say hi to each other if we don't know each other. So just a pause here. This is the butter that I will be using today. This is West Gold, and this so far has been my favorite butter. Like, I love butter. So I felt like in UK, they're also more open to meeting new people. And honestly, right, for me, I don't really enjoy meeting new people. Like, I find it very tiring. I wouldn't call myself an introvert by any means, but you know, it's like before I meet new people, I kind of have to like mentally prepare and be like, okay, I'm going to meet new people today, because I just, you know, I find it very tiring. But when I go to UK, everybody's so friendly and everybody is like so genuine. At least in the communities that I went to, that I kind of had to learn how to match the energy. But that being said, at the end of the day, we still decided to come back. And here are some of the things that I guess we didn't really like about the UK. Okay, the main reason why I decided to come back was because it was very difficult to find employment there. This was about 2 years ago. So I think it was like post-COVID, everybody's still trying to rebuild themselves. And then we just figured that our salaries and our job prospects in Singapore would be much better. The job that I got and I currently have is paying me much higher than whatever I could have gotten in the UK. And that is even before the UK deducts tax. So the amount that I would have been earning in UK, I would really be struggling. I think struggling even to get by and to live like paycheck to paycheck. So I think this is like kind of a difference. I don't know if this is like a difference in the attitude between Asians in general, or like, you know, like Singaporeans compared to the Brits. But in Singapore, right, we really focus a lot on saving for the future, making sure that we have enough in the bank, making sure that our retirement is secured and you know, well prepared for. Whereas I noticed that a lot of my friends in UK, they are okay, like, you know, taking like half a year, 1 year off work to go travel, backpack around Southeast Asia, and then be like, oh, okay, I'll come back, I'll use my savings for that, then I'll come back, and then I will just, you know, save again. But I think that is something that is really not like that's really not a very common like Singapore thought. I mean, there are more and more younger Singaporeans who are venturing to do these type of things, but generally it's not like a very it's not a very common thing to do. If I had stayed in the UK, I would really be living paycheck to paycheck, because the rent in UK is crazy. The rent in Singapore is also crazy, but if I live in Singapore, I don't pay rent and I can buy a house. So it's kind of a different situation. The rent that I was paying in UK for my small little house was about 1,700 pounds per month. So it was literally, it's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and one very small kitchen, and a living and dining room that is combined together, and that is for the two of us. So two of us would split that rent. And then after that, we had the heating bills, the electricity bills, we had all kinds of bills, and that really added up. And I think that I got pretty tired of was renting. Our agent gave us a lot of problems doing, like, to be honest, doing illegal things. In the end, we did sue our agent, because they were doing some illegal things. They were actually cheating us of money, and that caused us a lot of stress. Most of my life, I've stayed in our own house. So I've stayed in a house that my parents own. I didn't have a problem with pets. I didn't have a problem with, like, you know, wanting to paint the walls. If I wanted to paint the walls pink, I wanted to paint the walls green, it would be fine. If I wanted to hang, I wanted to hammer, I could do whatever I want. But in UK, because we were renting at that time, we had no choice but really just to follow what the owner said we could do. And I really missed my dog. At that time, it was just one dog, and I really missed my dog. So I wanted to bring him to UK, and I wasn't sure whether he'd be allowed. And sometimes they would charge extra fees for having pets per month. I think it was like £80 per month or something. I was actually considering bringing my dog over for the longest time. Like, we wanted to put him on a flight and then just get him over to the UK, because I think my corgi actually would like living in the UK much more. First of all, the weather is so much better. People say that UK weather is terrible, but my goodness, if they live here, they would know. I felt like the UK had fantastic weather. If I could live in UK weather all year long, like, just sign me up, man. I would live in the UK weather all year long. This current heat wave that we are having in Singapore has lasted like a good 50 years or so. So, you know, I'm kind of done with it. I miss being able to go to parks in the afternoon. I miss being able to just take a walk outdoors. I miss going to walk around like the high street and not sweating and not trying to constantly find shelter. In Singapore, we only have summer. Actually, I don't know why, but one of my husband's friends from UK, who's an Asian, by the way, he doesn't know that that there are some countries in the world that don't experience summer, don't experience seasons. Like, okay, I didn't know people didn't know that. So just in case you're one of them, Singapore doesn't experience seasons. So it's basically summer all year round, right? And when the weather actually drops, when the temperature drops like below 25, which is super rare, doesn't happen every year. Like, even if it happens for like a good two days and then it's over, right? When that happens, people are like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. Some people are even bringing out their puffer jackets. Okay, don't blame them because our infrastructure here is built for the heat, and people are just not used to it. People are not expecting it. People are expecting to be hot all the time. I realize when there's seasons, how much just the whole atmosphere changes. It's a total different change of scene. Whereas in Singapore, right, summer all year round, there's really no change of scenery. Every day looks the same. Every day, the only time it looks different is maybe if there's a very heavy storm. And then when the storm is over, it looks exactly the same. So after that, I was like, okay, I see why now Singapore is like, people think Singapore is boring, including me. Sometimes I really feel like Singapore is very boring. But it's because we don't have all these like natural changes as well. Our previous apartment was near the River Thames. So in the evening, we would walk along the river and then walk to Greenwich. I used to stay at Canary Wharf, near Canary Wharf, Poplar actually. And so then we would just walk along the River Thames all the way to Greenwich. But I think what truly made me so upset to leave London is because I really found a lot of friends in London that I still keep in contact to this day, that even flew over to Singapore for a wedding. I kind of miss the diversity that London has, even though Singapore is multiracial, but you know, 77% of Singaporeans are Chinese, and you don't have the diversity that UK has for sure, and I miss that. Every year, Singapore appears on the top 10 most expensive places in the world to live, and it never appears top 10 for like the happiness index, you know, which is kind of sad. Because I think Singapore is not a bad place to live. Singapore, honestly, is a good place to live. It's a great place to raise kids. As they say, Singapore is one of the safest places in the world. I feel like Singapore, most of the crime that appears on the news are crimes against within the family. So it's like always like, there's been recently a lot of sex crimes. It's always like father or stepfather or like grandfather, uncle and niece, but not a lot of crimes, honestly, against like strangers. Today I went to the hawker center and somebody was like reserving, so chopping the table with his car keys. So that's the amount of confidence Singaporeans have in our safety. So I think it's a great place to raise kids. So sometimes I wonder, right? And also because my family and my friends are here, sometimes I wonder if I ever have kids, right, where would I want to raise them? Because I would love them to grow up in a place that has seasons, a place where they can be outdoors more often, somewhere where it's not like 100 degrees every single day outside. The reason why I decided to start making my own scones rather than buying scones is because I thought scones are extremely expensive. Like a single scone is like $4 to $6. There's this famous one that the people in my office, they bought a few times. I forgot what exactly is the brand name, but I thought it's like $6 for a small scone, and I thought that was like extremely expensive.
So, but today, right, when I went out to buy the ingredients, this is like $7 and this is $14. So just on these two items alone, I spent like $22. So I was like, okay, I get it. This butter is $6, almost $6. So I was like, okay, I get it. I get what's the price so expensive. Then I still have to clean up all this later, but such is life. So yeah, so back to my ingredients here. I have some buttermilk and I'm just going to mix in the vanilla. I really miss the church in UK. I think the church in UK, me going to the church in UK at the start, it was just for me to make friends, because the church that I went to was recommended by one of my secondary school friends who also lived in London for quite some time. Just before I left for UK, I had stopped going to church for about, maybe it was like 1 or 2 years at that point. First of all, there was COVID and I didn't really like the church that I was staying at. I felt pretty disappointed in the church, and I think this is like a personal journey. A lot of Christians go through this, so if you are going through this, I relate. I was basically, I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to like talk about God and all that kind of stuff. It was the service and the people in the church that made me go back to God, and also that made me want to come back to Singapore, get it together, find a new church, get myself rooted in a new church community. So I'm really grateful actually for all the things that have come out from UK. Okay, so now this is what my batter looks like. I realized I did not show a single shot of my batter. I've just been like talking and like doing stuff. So I'm just using an ice cream scoop now. I'm just gonna scoop it up onto the tray. I also just wanted to show you this shirt that I got. I think this is a Singaporean brand because this is like Singaporean food. I always like to say I'm Hainanese, so I always like to eat chicken rice, and so that's why I got this shirt. I love the quality of this shirt. It's like thick and the print is crisp. It's a bit hot now, to be honest. So this is the final product, and I know this looks a lot more like cookies than scones. I don't know what went wrong. I'm not sure whether it's because of the baking powder, that's why it didn't rise, but my friends came last night to try the first batch that I made and they really liked it. In fact, they brought most of it back home. So here, this is a small piece. So even though this doesn't really look like a scone, but it still has the flakiness and the butteriness of a scone. And the chocolate chips, look at all the chocolate chips, they have like melted.